So, the year is 1997. Princess Diana is dead, Mike Tyson just chopped Holyfield's ear, and LEGO is amidst a 10-year downturn in profits.
Where is the money?
Clearly, LEGO needed something cool, radical, and Polynesian to catch the attention of 90s kids. Welcome to Bionicles.
Discover their skills. Use their masks. Bionicle. Find the power. Live the legend.
Now, I was going to go through the history of the Bionicles, but that could easily be a video by itself. So let me just give you the bullet points. LEGO began rolling out Bionicles in December 2000 throughout Europe, and later in North America in mid-2001, and made a stonking £100 million in its first year. Now the year is 2006, and Bionicles is the #1 LEGO theme in terms of sales and popularity globally, spawning movies, comic books, video games, and of course the toy lines, that were all part of an expanded universe which in itself is really impressive, considering this is LEGO and years before the MCU. Not to mention the extraordinarily layered and very cool lore of the Bionicle world, that is told through every little facet of the franchise, even using the toy line adverts as a chance to drop lore, all while performing a Linkin Park music video. But of course, what goes up must come down, and after dwindling sales, the decade-long story of the Bionicles was discontinued in 2010, after one final wave of Toa, just to be replaced by this shit.
No.
Before getting a reboot in 2012 that also failed. But forget about it, because today we are talking about the games, specifically the first one. Welcome to the Kino Aisle, a series dedicated to remembering and celebrating the nostalgic media from our past. Bionicle The Game was released on the 10th of September 2003 for the Game Boy Advance, and later released for the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox on October 20th, and the 28th of October 2003 for the PC. The console and computer versions were developed by the British company Argonaut Games, with Mobius Entertainment sorting the Game Boy Advance version. Now, this game was not received well, getting at best lukewarm reviews, with Brett Todd from GameSpot saying that all the wonder of the Bionicle universe has been bled dry by a vapid design and an atrocious camera system. Yikes. The game bombed, and the devs Argonaut dissolved in 2006, leaving nothing but a tech demo for Bionicle City of Legends in their wake. But either way, I think these types of games always seem to get rinsed when they are released, and I'm sure it's deserved. But at this point, it's 2023, I'm nearly in my mid-20s and in need of some Kino. And I'm certainly not a game critic, so we move. Now before we get into the game, I wanted to go over some of the details. So the devs were not given access to the voice actors from the Bionicle Mask of Light movie, hence Argonauts went with sound-alike voices for the characters. Now, for some reason most of these voice actors are uncredited, apart from Sean Schemmel, who played Makuta, Jim Ward, who played Bahatu Nuva, and Travis Willingham, who plays Tahu. And to be fair to the devs, they could have just not featured the Bionicles voices, or just hired utterly different voice actors and I really doubt anyone would have cared. So props to Argonauts. It definitely sounds more like people role-playing as the Toa, but this only adds to its wholesomeness. Also, tell me this isn't Izzy from Digimon.
We need Rahi power to open this door.
So, the game starts with Turaga Mata and Turaga Vakama telling the story of the Toa, and how they were sent by the great beings to Matanui to banish darkness and defeat the evil Makuta. Everything is pretty chill until a horde of Nui Kopen along with 3 Tahuk busts in chasing Takuya. The Toa make pretty quick work of the attackers before returning to their Wahi, which is just their elemental regions, to defeat the Borak and collect their Krana. For the first 2 missions you play as Tahu and Kopaka in their home Wahis, Ta Wahi and Ko Wahi. You cop coins, save Matoran, and beat different Borak, copping 2 Krana in the process. Okay, now this originally confused me, and if not for the Bionicle wiki, I wouldn't have had a clue as to why this happened. But the Toa Mata all meet with their Krana, I guess, even though you see the Toa still collecting them later in the game, but whatever. They meet up and the Toa are just magically transformed from the Toa Mata to the Toa Nuva. And not even the wiki has a good explanation, so let's just move on. They look cooler, so who's complaining? After this, Gali Nuva returns to Gawahi, where she swims and does this shockwave thingy, then opens the passageway to the Borak cow and beats it. Takuya for some reason knows the Rakshi are heading to Onuwahi, so Gali decides to go let Onuwa know. But on her track, Gali runs into Pohatu, and they decide that Gali will go to Lua Wahi to warn Lua, and Pohatu will head out to warn Onuwa about the Rakshi. He proceeds to then save the Matoran and collect coins. Seems to be a pattern appearing, except that this mission is another on-the-rail type mission. Pohatu makes it to Onuwahi and tells Onuwa about the Rakshi just before one of them shows up. Pohatu dips to warn Tahu, while Onuwa stays to handle the foe, having to push statues onto pressure points to open doors, finding the Rakshi in this pod, and once again moving statues onto pressure points, but instead firing them at the pod and killing the Rakshi in the process. Meanwhile, in Lua Wahi, Gali lets Lua know about the situation, and he sets off to save enough Matoran to activate his Suva, giving him the ability to glide, and make his way to the Rakshi. And you have to destroy all these platforms until the Rakshi falls into the water and drowns, I guess. Cut to Takuya telling Tahu that he had the Mask of Light, because Takuya is just based. But one of the Rakshi caught the mask. Pohatu shows up and Tahu goes after the Rakshi, chasing it down while surfing on lava. The final Rakshi then just kind of explodes and the mask flies onto Tahu's face, transforming him into the 7th Toa Takanuva, and also teleporting him directly to Makuta. And here we are, in the final, boys. Makuta sends a few waves of grunts after Takanuva before destroying the ground and sending them both falling down this massive tower. Then you basically just have to stand on the right platforms to be able to get through Makuta's shield enough times to beat him. Takanuva then places the Mask of Light onto Makuta, fusing them into Takatanuva and restoring balance to Matanui. Fuck me, that was long. So it's been a long time since I watched the movie, but this game clearly based its story off the movie, and it's fine. It just lacked a lot of context, and I had to check the wiki to clear everything up. In general, I think an original story including the same characters would have been better, but ultimately the story is decent, and ties the levels together enough. Before we get into the gameplay, I think it is worth mentioning the manager of marketing for Bionicle, Sarah Marshall, said they wanted to avoid hack and slash gameplay, because Bionicle is about being a bit smarter than that, instead featuring elemental weapons. Now again, I think this was done out of genuine respect for the franchise, but as we will see, the execution of this left a lot to be desired. So, the gameplay pretty much is split between 2 game modes, if you will. One of a third-person action platformer, and the other in the form of an arcade on the rails type of game, with a combat system that runs through both game modes. Each Toa has an elemental weapon that shoots out balls of energy, that just auto-targets onto the enemy, meaning there really isn't much skill to the combat. The only thing you have to worry about is pressing the shield button in between manically firing elemental beams. And this gets old really quick. Although more towards the end of the game, the Toa start to have more unique abilities and far more interesting levels that at least make for a more fun platforming experience. And this is also true for the boss battles, but it's kind of too little too late, to be honest. I personally think that if they were just to make the 6 Toa playable and have you switch between the different Toa's elemental abilities in order to solve certain puzzles or get through obstacles, much like in later Bionicle games, it would immediately upgrade this to a decent platformer, and add a bit more oomph to the Toa Nuva transformation, as you would have had time to play as all the Toa matter. Now for the on-the-track gameplay. It was so unnecessarily hard, but not in a way that required me to be more skillful. You're either just chasing an enemy that you have to get close to, activate your shield and shoot it enough times to kill it, or you have to collect or shoot a certain amount of things, or just get to the end of the mission first. I legit struggled with all of these on-the-rails missions so much that I, a 24-year-old man, was seething over a Bionicle game made for literal children in 2003. Goals, to be honest. Also, the camera is kinda bad. It's inverted, slow, delayed, and just doesn't go in certain directions. Although it's kind of weird because at first it really infuriated me, but over time I guess I just got used to it and the issue went away. So, I suppose I should begin to tie everything together, because I didn't want this video to be negative and I definitely have ragged on this game a bit. I really enjoyed this game, and nostalgia is a hell of a thing. Because if a game with these issues came out today, it would be in the bin. But for how annoying the on-the-rails levels were, they added challenge. Even with most of the boss battles being simple, they add just enough challenge to give you that dopamine hit and keep you playing. And yes, the early platforming levels are very empty. But as the game gets into its rhythm, the platforming elements begin to become far more dynamic. But the real question is, why is it in the Kino aisle? What makes this game Kino? And for me, it's all about the vibe. This is clearly the work of Bionicle fans. The combat system, although it wasn't amazing, came about directly because they wanted to do the Toa justice. And as somewhat of a Bionicle fan myself, I appreciate the effort. From the sound-alike voice actors to the slightly scuffed soundtrack, this game is brimming with character. And to be fair to Argonauts, they managed to roughly tie in the movie's plot while adding some other elements of the lore that the film misses, like seeing the Toa Mater before they transform into the Toa Nuva. All in all, Bionicle The Game is a really quirky and perhaps even misguided love letter to the Bionicle franchise. And for this very reason, it deserves to be the first game in the Kino aisle. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please leave a comment with any feedback or suggestions for future videos below. And of course, a like and subscribe would be sick. This is my first video, so honestly, anything I can improve on, let me know.